We call it Big Kids generally because we're back in the kids ministry, and so we get to spend our time of worship with them. A couple of times out of the month, we get to have live worship with the little kids, and it's just such an amazing time to watch kids worship. But there's just something special about being able to come as a congregation of believers, of adults, and worship the Lord. He is, just like the song that we sang today, worthy of it all. And you guys have something special here with your worship team, even after I found out several of them were going to be gone this week. Didn't sound like you were missing anybody. Well, good morning. My name is Pastor Carrie. For those of you who were here last week, you may remember that my husband and Drew and I, Pastor Mike had asked us to come down and fill in for him while he was down in Guatemala. And unforeseen circumstances and canceled flights and rescheduled flights made it so that they had to miss 2 Sundays in a row, which I know as a kids pastor is a little nerve-wracking for me, being away from our kids for 2 weekends in a row. But I know it had to have been nerve-wracking for Pastor Mike as well, because this is his congregation. These are his people. You are his sheep that he's shepherding, and it's nerve-wracking to let somebody else step into the pulpit and share a word, especially when you know it's beyond your control. But God's in control, right? And he knew what he was doing. And Pastor Mike and the group will be on their way home today. From what I gather, they're going to be getting in really late tonight. So just as they continue on your day, just be praying for them. Traveling after a long week of doing God's work can be exhausting. And traveling can heighten senses and emotions. And so just pray for them as they're heading back, that their flights run a little bit more smoothly than they have last week, right? It was so good to be here with you last week. You guys were such an amazing church. You guys are just great. You're very welcoming, which is a nice thing to have, especially in a military town like this. There are people coming and going, Marines and sailors and their families, all the time. And so to be able to walk in this place and feel like you're at home and that you're welcomed is such an awesome thing. As military, as you heard last week, us as military with 4 kids moving around, it was always a nervous thing for us to move to a new duty station and have to find a new church. And so when we were welcomed in, like we were last week, it makes you feel more at ease and feel more a part of a family. Because this may be Liberty Church Jacksonville, and Drew and I may be from Liberty Church Havelock, but we are one family in God, right? The last 2 weeks, though, I have to tell you, has really stretched Drew and I. Just so you know, last Sunday was Drew's ever first Sunday preaching a sermon. And he did a pretty good job, right? And while I've preached on a Wednesday night, right before we left out for our missions time in Guatemala, this is the first Sunday for me as well, so God is really stretching us. And I just really appreciate your guys' willingness to be willing to let us into your home and to hear a word that God's been sharing on our hearts. We're used to teaching kids, like I said, and so I'm picturing you all as little 4s, 5s, K5s or first graders, eager to hear what I have to say, but maybe playing on your phone or distracted by whatever beverage you are drinking this morning. So that puts me at ease, and hopefully it'll come across well for you guys. Too nervous. Pastor Mike knows, I'm sure, that this is, he's got a good congregation here, and I just want to applaud Pastor Mike. He's doing a really great job stewarding you guys in a way that is just so great for the body of Christ and advancing the kingdom. And so I really appreciate his willingness in letting us to be down here to fill in for him. Again, I just think Pastor Mike, if he's watching this morning, hey, Mr. Mike, safe travels. He's been going through his sermon series with you out of the book of James, talking about pressures and pressure points. And Drew, I think, had it mistaken last week, and he was using kung fu moves. I don't know. I just remember his time going through those classes and learning how to become a black belt that many of evenings turned into a pretzel. Hey, watch this. Look what I learned today. And the next thing you know it, I don't know where my hands or my feet were because they were somewhere behind me. And he gave us a good word about perspective last week. Our perspective and what we're going through on a daily or a weekly, monthly, yearly basis, what's happening in our lives right now. Our perspective can really change the way things happen and the outcomes that they bring. This week, I want to talk to you about forgetting our calling. I love that Janelle was really pushing a point during her worship set, was that taking the time, right? We get so busy that things slip through cracks and we just forget to look up, like she said. And I love that because that has a lot to do with what I want to be talking with you guys today. So my question to you is, please help me out. Is there anybody here that has forgotten something? Big, small, it doesn't matter. You've forgotten something at least some point in time. All right, so I'm in good company. All right, so yeah, raise your hand. Don't be shy. I've done it. You've done it. We've all done it. We have a volunteer that works in our kids ministry, and anytime he's back there with our kids on Sundays, I'm always guaranteed to find something that he's left behind, right? It's a cup, it's a Bible, it's a notepad, it's always something, and I always have to call him up the next week and say, hey, I have your Yeti cup yet again. So I'm in good company. I know that Pastor Drew gave away our age last week, but I am here to say I'm not as old as him, all right? He may be 50, but I am not. 2 years is 2 years younger. All right. I don't care if it was 2 minutes, 2 hours, 2 days, but 2 years is a lot of time. So I just want to put it out there that I am not as old as him. All right. I may be a grandma, but I'm a young grandma. So there we go. 2 years is 2 years, but I do forget things. And I just want to tell you a little something. I forget lots of things, honestly. To be quite honest with you, I get so busy doing the things, right? Doing the wife things, doing the mother things, doing the grandmother things, doing the kids ministry things, doing the cooking, the cleaning. I mean, my list goes on and on and on and on. That sometimes things just kind of fall through the crack. I always tell people that if I don't have it in my phone, I will forget it. So if I'm talking to you and we're talking about going to get a coffee or something that's going on in your life or something you need prayer for, I need to have it, because if I don't, I will forget it. I know it's a horrible, horrible thing to always have my phone on me, but without my phone, I would forget lots more things. So I want to be transparent with you. About a time I forgot something kind of important. You met perhaps last week our youngest daughter, Elena. She is the mother of the cute chunky monkey grandbaby that we have with us today. When she was about 3 years old, I was working at Liberty Church Havelock, the school. We used to have a school there called Liberty Christian School. We've got an alumni right over there. I think I've played basketball against her in an alumni game, and FYI, I don't know how to play basketball. But I think you guys won that game. I remember getting called out and texts and fouls, and I don't know, the ref just kept blowing his whistle at me. But I was there teaching the K4 class, which is kindergarten for 4-year-olds. Absolutely loved it. Best job ever. Half days. Another perk of the job. And our youngest, Elena, somebody would babysit her, and at the end of the day, that person who had a child in my class would pick up their child and drop Elena off to me. Well, at the time, I was also doing the art class for the older kids. So it was one of my collateral duties for you Marines, because I know a little Marine lingo. It was one of my collateral duties. And so one day a week, I would teach art. And I am not artistic, but we managed. And so she would go in my room, and she would take a nap in my classroom while I sat out in the cafeteria area, prepping for my art class, cutting the things out, getting the supplies ready, that sort of thing. And it was great. It was just this routine that we had one day a week, and it worked out really well. Class was over. The older siblings were all in school, so we stayed until they were done. And school was over. I was done with my art prep, and so we get up and we get in the car and we head out. And by we, I mean myself, obviously, because I'm the one driving, and the 3 older siblings. Kind of forgot Elena. She was in my classroom, sleeping, taking a nap. And so if you know Havelock, which is not a very big city, you know where the church is. There's a Bojangles in Havelock not too far down. It's about, quarter mile, half mile. And we get in the car, and we're driving, and I get to the light at the Bojangles, and I thought, oh, I forgot something. And I had to turn around and go pick up Elena, who, by the way, was still sleeping. She had no clue I had left her. And she hadn't found out until years later when I was telling this story. And now she holds it against me all the time. It's horrible. Her and her husband are celebrating their anniversary, and so we have grandparent duty, and I think she's mentioned it several times. Don't forget him when you go down to Jacksonville. Don't forget him when you go to your Nerf war, because we had a Nerf war yesterday for our kids. Don't forget. I'm like, I'm not going to forget him. Who am I? What are you talking about? And she's like, yeah, you remember when I was 3? And I was like, oh, okay, I got you. So that was a few years ago. That was back when I was even younger than I am now, right? So when we were here last week with you guys, our church, Pastor Blake had a Next Steps class. I'm sure you guys have a newcomers class here. I'm not sure what you call it, but same Next Steps class? All right, perfect. So we're in the same family. I knew that we had that going on while we were here. I don't really have anything to do with it, except for Drew and I have to get childcare ready for it. Not a big deal. We had childcare. We had people set up, ready to go to watch the few kids that were going to be there. Except for, I kind of forgot the pizza. So Pastor Blake and a couple of the other people are in charge of getting the food for the people that do the Next Steps class, the big kids, like what I like to call them. And Drew and I are responsible for the pizza. But I kind of forgot. So I've gone from forgetting kids to starving kids. I don't know. I'm hoping it's only up from here. I'm not sure. So they had to scramble around and get the pizza. Now, I knew we had STEX class. I knew we were supposed to get kids cared for, so we had volunteers for that. And I knew we were supposed to feed them, except for I forgot to set that up. And so, my bad. I get busy. I forget things. We were busy prepping for coming down here. We were in the middle of painting some of our kids' ministry rooms and reorganizing them to better suit our needs. And Guatemala is on my brain, and it slipped. I was getting so busy doing the God things that I was supposed to be doing, the ministry things, serving, volunteering, getting classrooms prepped, getting my volunteers all in a row, that I kind of forgot some important details. And we get that way, don't we? We get so busy serving and being on the praise team, or being out there to greet people, or being in the back with the kids volunteering, that we kind of slip away from getting into his word, or praying, or thanking him for all that he's done for us, or even, praising him in a way that we should be praising him. The things that we're all created to do, right? The enemy doesn't always want us to be a bad person. It's not always about doing bad things. Sometimes he attacks us in a way that we revolve around our life, and that's what a schedule is. We've got things to do. We have work. We have kids to take care of. The kids have sports. There's always something that's going on, and sometimes that's how the devil attacks us, right? He attacks us in our schedule, because if we become busy enough, we're distracted. And if we're distracted, we become ineffective Christians. Yes. And so if he gets us doing from what God wants us to do, then he's won, in a sense. Now, today we're going to talk about the times that we get so busy that we forget what he has called us to do. True transparency. I was actually kind of given this word watching a guilty pleasure of mine. Not sure if anybody watches Call the Midwife. It's a PBS show. You can find it on Netflix now. It's based in the late 50s, early 60s in London, the East End of London, actually. It's based off of the memoirs of Jennifer Worth. She's a midwife, and she goes to work with nuns in the Nonnatus house. So it goes through like the trials and events that happen in those times when it comes to women and giving birth. I know, men, that's not something that you like to think about, really. But for us women, that's very something that's very seared in our minds, especially if we're parents or if we want to become parents, right? And it's one of those that I've just watched so many times, kind of like The Office for some of us, or maybe you've got a TV show that you've just watched so many times that you don't really even have to watch it. You just turn it on because you can hear it, and you know what it's already the shows and the scenes and everything else, that you just kind of put it on and listen to it. And it is something that I tend to do. It's kind of like doing an audiobook for some of you. I put it on as I'm driving, and I just listen. It keeps my mind focused on the road. But every once in a while, something will pop through that I hadn't heard before. It's kind of like the Bible, right? You read scripture all the time. You're in the Word all the time, and you read a verse that you've read thousands of times before. Well, maybe not that many, but several times before. And there's just something in it that just sticks out more than you've never read that before. And so this is kind of what happened with this. This was before we even knew we were going to be here a second week. God likes to drop little snippets of sermons to me in different ways. Sometimes it's just a 2 o'clock wake up and with a download of something that he's got to tell me. And I go, okay, I have learned. I don't try to sleep it off or push it off to the next morning. I've learned to get up right then and start typing, whether it's on my phone or on my iPad or on my computer, something so that I can get it down, so that in the morning I can reread it and see what he has for me. Well, this is what happened this time. He just gave me a little bit of snippet of something, and I didn't know where it was going to go, and I didn't know exactly all that it was going to entail. But then Pastor Mike called us last Saturday and said, oh, hey, by the way, not one Sunday, but maybe 2. And I thought, oh, okay, yeah, we've got it. We've got you covered. We've got your back. We'll take care of it. And as we went that Saturday because we were watching a movie when he called. We went out to grab things for dinner, and I thought, oh, that's what it is for. And so I was like, okay, well, I feel a little bit better. I kind of know what we want to talk about next Sunday. And he just downloaded it for me the rest of the way as I sat down this week and prepped for coming here to speak with y'all today. This message, so just to be clear, is not just for you. It is for me just as well. As you heard me say earlier, I forget things and I get very busy. And so even when it comes to church, things get very busy with us. And I'm speaking to myself as well, because this is something that I am learning as I get on in years. Not as many years as Drew, but as I get on in years in my walk with the Lord. So we're going to jump into some familiar stories that I'm sure we have all heard. The first one is about Mary and Martha. It comes from Luke 10:38 through 42. It's the story of Mary and Martha. Jesus is coming over to their house, and here's our sisters. They're getting ready for Jesus' visit in their own ways, right? Martha is a doer. I relate to her wholeheartedly. She's a doer. She is the one that is cooking and cleaning and preparing. She's making sure all the details are in order. She's got enough food for everybody. She's got enough drink for everybody. I don't know why she was really worried about drink, because if they ran out of something like wine, Jesus could probably just turn more water into wine, but that's another story. She's busy. She's busy all the time, and if you're like me and you're like Martha, there's always something. You never sit still. As you can see, I'm a mover. I'm moving all over the stage. The camera is probably hating me right now, but it's just what we do. We just do things. It's not a time to sit down and relax, because there's always something that can be done. And that's kind of how Martha was. She was a great hostess. No one could argue that she was anything but a great hostess. But she wanted to make sure her guests were taken care of, make sure that they had everything that they needed, that they didn't want for anything. She was just a good hostess. I get it. When we have people over to the house, it's okay, task mode. All right, you clean this, you clean that, you put away this, I've got food. We've got a list that we go through, and I just have to make sure. And poor Drew, oh gosh, bless his heart, 30 years of marriage, and he has just learned that I'm going to ask him to do something, and then I'm just going to go behind him and read it. So it's just what I do. I'm a doer. And then there's somebody who's complete opposite of us doers, and that was Mary. And what did she do? She just sat at Jesus' feet. As a Martha, that makes me cringe just a little bit, because there's so many things you could be helping me with. But she did exactly what she was supposed to do. She was just sitting there. Now, I'm kind of torn about who I would be in this story, right? Because I am a Martha and I am a doer. I have a hard time just sitting. It's Jesus, right? Like, who would not sit at his feet? Back then, maybe, they knew who they had in front of them, but maybe not to the extent of who they had in front of him, right? But looking at it now from what we know, like, I almost feel like I might be a Mary. They're kind of like my grandbabies, right? My grandbabies. You got Chunky Monkey back there. I've got a little bean granddaughter in Norfolk, and we've got one more on the way. My kids are so great. They're blessing us with grandbabies every 5 months. Woo! Just as we get settled in with one, another one comes along. But it's great. And there, you can ask any of my kids now that they're grandbabies, kids who? I drop everything for the grandbabies. Yes, by sure, I will hold you. Yes, I will feed you. What? Dishes? There needs to be dishes done? I'm holding a baby. So for Jesus, I think I would be 100% a Mary. I can kind of relate to what Mary is doing here. There's not many things that'll get me to stop and relax. Grandbabies are one of them. Jesus, yeah, I think he trumps my grandbabies. That, I think I would be 100% a Mary. In verse 40, we see where Martha is frustrated with Mary. And she goes to Jesus, and she was just like, Lord, you see what my sister is doing? Doesn't it seem unfair to you that she's just sitting here? Well, I'm over here doing all the work. Tell her to come help me. Come on, Jesus, be on my side. Tell her to come help me. There's things that still need to be going on. There's still things that need to be prepped. And here's the great thing about Jesus. He doesn't criticize her. Doesn't criticize her in this moment. What he says to her is that, Martha, my dear Martha, you're worried about all these other things. You're upset over all these other details, but there is only one thing worth being concerned about. Mary has discovered it, and it will not be taken away from her. It doesn't say some things. It says one thing. He doesn't criticize Martha in that moment for serving because she was doing what she was supposed to be doing. But he does correct her in her priorities. So God talks to us, and he doesn't criticize us for doing all the God things. But sometimes that word that he drops on us is, what are your priorities? Serving is good. Working is good. Providing for your family is good. Helping others is good. But when those good things that you're doing, and I use that word lightly, good things, they replace your time with God. And we then become too busy in our life. A lot of us are a Martha. We're busy, but we're spiritually drained. We're busy, but we don't have peace. We're busy, and here's a good one, we've lost our joy. We're busy, but our relationship with God is suffering. It's not what God intended us to do when he said in 1 John 3:18, let us not love with words or speech, but with actions and in truth. He doesn't want us to replace our relationship with activities. He wants us to be his feet before we be his hands. He wants us at his feet before we can be his hands. It is such a crazy time in churches where there are so many activities. I don't know about you, but it seems like in many churches that there's just something going on every day of the week. How do you pick and choose? Do you go to all of them? Do you go to some of them? Oh, but wait, you have your family at home and your priorities there too. So it's a very fine balance that you have to find. And that starts with talking with God. Our time in Guatemala was busy. When we had groups, we were with groups. They come in, like we talked about last week. They come in on a Monday, we pick them up, we hit the ground running. We were visiting churches, we're visiting feeding programs, we're doing home visits. It's just a constant go, go, go. And contrary to popular belief, when we don't have groups, it's downtime and vacation time when we spend all our time at the beach. No. That is not it. I think the entire 2 years we were down there, we spent one day at the beach, and that was only because my Spanish teacher's husband was a tour guide, and he could drive us over to the beach and back and forth. And it was when Pastor Steve and Anna weren't there. They were back here speaking to churches, and we didn't have any groups. So there was like one afternoon we were able to fit in to go to the beach, and it was great because it's the black sands, volcanic sands on the Pacific side, and I forgot just how rough the water was. We couldn't get it, and it was so hot that I burnt my feet on the black sand. It was great. But there's day-to-day things, right? There's the ministries that are running. Just because there's not groups there at the time doesn't mean the feeding program stopped. If you're a sponsor, then we do updates on the kids that you're sponsoring. You may be sending a letter to your sponsor child, and we're translating that. So there's always something to be done. The medical and dental offices are constantly going. We have doctors on site. We're doing all of these things. There just really isn't a downtime for us as missionaries when we were down there. Our one day off during the week that we would usually have was spent trying to get caught up on everything that we needed to do. Our own laundry, or heading to the grocery store, or picking up prescriptions, or whatever the case may be. It was super busy. But they were all God things, right? Helping kids in the feeding program is a God thing. Doing the translations of the letters is a God thing. It's helping us build your relationship with your sponsor child, all under the umbrella of it being a God thing. We would get so busy doing those things that sometimes our alone time with the Lord would get affected. Especially for me personally, it was when we had groups. Because I was a Martha. I was trying to make sure the groups had everything that they needed. I was helping Steve and Anna plan. It's just, you want to be the best hostess that you can be, so that the people that are coming down, taking a week out of their time, can see the ministry and what all we do the best. We can show them that in the best of our abilities. And so sometimes we would stay out. And I remember when your guys' group was down, we stayed out in the Quiche compound and was just praise and worshiping, because we had our Guatemala boys, is what Pastor Steve calls them. It was just great. And it was a great time, and I didn't want to leave. But it meant that some things had to be pushed off to the side. And unfortunately, that meant my time away and my alone time with the Lord. I really had to be disciplined in that. The busyness that we put in ourselves is what distracts us from our relationship with God. I didn't have to sit out there with a group, but it was such great worship, and worship is a God thing, right? But it wasn't the right God thing that I should have put my focus on. And the enemy knows that a distracted Christian, like I said earlier, is an ineffective Christian. If he can get you to do other things and fill your hours with other things than with the God things you're supposed to be doing, then it is perfect for him. Our time for our reading our Bible disappears, right? We get busy, and our quiet time with the Lord goes away. It diminishes to no time, and before you know it, when was the last time that I spent time with the Lord? And soon, instead of thriving, we're just surviving. And there were several times in Guatemala where I was like, whew, okay, I hear you, God. I am just surviving at this point, and I know that's not what you've called me down here for. And so it's a call that we have to refocus and put our attention on. How many of you have ever said, oh, if I can just get through the holidays? I had an argument with my daughter last night because she wants to tell me it's fall. And I said, it's August 1st. This was yesterday. I said, it's August 1st, and it is still almost 100 degrees outside. We're not anywhere close to being fall. And oh, by the way, if it's almost fall, or if it is fall, that means Thanksgiving is around the corner, and Christmas is around the corner, and New Year's is around the corner, and I can't handle that right now. It's not almost fall, y'all. So put your pumpkin spice lattes in the back corner. You can bring it out later when the temperatures come down a little bit. But I've said that before. If once we get through these holidays, then I'll start reading my Bible more frequently. I'll get back into my discipline. I'll start the new year off right. Or how about this one? We just recently went through this. Once VBS is over, I'll spend more time with God, because right now I've got a mural to paint and cardboard to cut. It's just never enough time. And so my question to you in that is, when was the last time you just simply sat at Jesus' feet like a Mary? You put everything off to the side, whether it was something you needed to do, something that was what you thought was a high priority, and you just sat it aside and you sat at his feet and just listened. There's a worship song that says, I want to sit at your feet, lay back against you and breathe. There are so many times where I get so busy doing things that the anxiety in me wells up and I have a hard time breathing, taking a deep breath in. And if I just remember that song, to just sit at his feet, lean back against him, and breathe, the priorities will shift in a way that are God-centered, not me-centered. I think you've heard the story of Jonah. Maybe you haven't. If you've ever been in kids ministry, you've probably done a craft of Jonah inside the belly of a fish. I know we recently done that in our kids ministry. God told Jonah, basically what it is God told Jonah to go to Nineveh. Jonah refuses, gets in a boat, goes the opposite direction, gets swallowed by a fish, and spends 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of a fish. I know we're in North Carolina. I know we are big seafood people here, but I personally cannot do it. I can't get past the smell. I love going to the beach, but you know when the beach smells like fish? Or like I'm driving through Swansboro, or you know that part where there's that bridge over the water and it's low tide and it gets that marshy smell? Okay, guys, I can't do it. I love you. I have been here almost, well over 20 years. It's been almost 30 years that we've been down here. I still can't get past it. Now, as a child growing up, I grew up on lakes, freshwater, great, woo, bluegill, pontoons, yay. But there's just something about the marsh smell that I just can't do. Poor Albert, we were talking with him last week, and he's going to Beaufort, and that place smells fish. Can't do it. So Jonah being in a belly of a fish for 3 days and 3 nights, man, I'm so glad it was him, not me. The story, though, many preachers and pastors will use it as a story of a rebellion, right? God told him what to do. He refused. He went the opposite direction. But I want to put a little twist on it. I want to put a little different filter, like Pastor Drew was talking about last week, a different filter on this story. I wanted to put on a filter of busyness. So let's do it this way. God called Jonah to go to Nineveh. Simple, easy, right? Just like if your wife calls you and says, hey, I need you to stop by Walmart and pick up a loaf of bread. Simple task. Some guys will go, where's the bread aisle? But this was easy. Jonah knew where Nineveh was. He knew how to get there, but he boards a ship and he goes in the opposite direction. Pure rebellion, I agree, wholeheartedly. But what about this? What if Jonah was running? What if he was running to go and do all of the other things that were God things, that he didn't go and do the God thing God was actually calling him to do? How many of us are running because our focus is on the to-do list when it should be on the list that God has given us? Sorry, I told you I'm talking to myself this morning. God says we need to forgive. But we fill our time with the next Netflix documentary and another home group. Or maybe God calls us to serve. But instead, I need to take a break. I've been through a lot lately. I just need to sit here and be fed. Now, let me say this. We're kids pastors. It has been probably close to 2 months since I've sat through a service, because there is always, with kids ministry, somebody who calls out. It's just the life of a kids pastor. It's going to happen, it's great, but every once in a while, Drew and I are able to sneak in over a big kids service, and so that's why it's been really great to be with you all the last 2 Sundays, because we've been able to be in a service. Now, yes, we've been up here, but it has been great to be in a kids service to get fed as well. As much as I'm teaching y'all today, I'm learning as well. So it's just, we get doing busy things. God calls us to witness. There's somebody in your workplace. There's somebody that you encounter on a day-to-day basis that, man, God's just been kind of like pushing you to say something to them, but instead you talk about the weather and how hot it's been, or the upcoming football season. Oh, I can't wait for football to start again. And which college team is the best? Obviously, it's Michigan. And before you know it, you've talked so much about Michigan and you completely forgot you were supposed to be, sharing the gospel with this person. We stay busy doing everything, but Jonah himself found himself in the storm. Not because God hates him and wanted him to smell like a fish. It was actually the exact opposite. God loved him too much to let him miss out on the calling God had given him. How many times do we find ourselves in a storm? Things are happening, you just don't understand, you don't know what's going on, you don't know how to deal with it, and what it is not necessarily because God wants you in a storm. Sometimes what it is he's refocusing you. He's pushing you in a direction he wanted you and had originally called you to be, but you got so busy, you steered from the course of direction that he had put you on. We get those storms in our life sometimes as a reminder that we've wandered away from what God is calling us to do. And that's what happened with Jonah. And he eventually obeyed, and hopefully we do too. We may not change an entire city like Jonah, but man, can you imagine what it is that God has called us to do if we do it, what that means for somebody on the receiving end? If we put our kids' ministry as a priority, and it is by all means, don't get me wrong, instead of coming here and spending the time with you, we would be missing out. We would be missing out and experiencing a powerful worship with you guys. We would be missing out on meeting such great people, reconnecting with people that we haven't seen in a while, and reconnecting with people that we've been out on the mission field with before. Just like God loved Jonah, he loves us too, and he doesn't want us to miss out on what he has for us. So if you're going through a storm right now, take a minute, ask yourself what you've been doing, what's God been doing, and how they either line up or they don't line up. Last week we heard Pastor Drew talk about in Matthew 28:19 and 20 about going and making disciples. It says, go therefore and make disciples. And he talked about answering the call into missions. And that is not missions like, hey, I need you to sell all of your stuff and fly to Africa tomorrow. It is local missions. It's people within your own church, people in your surrounding church, people in your own family. It's regional missions. It's people of Jacksonville in Eastern Carolina. It's national. Maybe there's something going on that is really tugging at your heart about here in the United States, or perhaps it is international. Maybe it's a 1-week trip or a 1-month trip, or wait until God tells you to come back trip. But I wanted to point out something to you in that verse. It just says go. It's simple. 2 letters, go. It doesn't say go when you have the time to go. Go after the kids are grown up. Go after you're retired. Maybe go when you have all the money in the world. No, it just simply says go. Go. Like Pastor Drew touched on, every believer has a calling. That means if you're a believer and you're sitting in this church right now, you have a calling. It may not be to preach up here on a Sunday or a Wednesday night. It may not be up here to sing. I've been to several places and several churches, and none of the worship teams have ever asked me to sing. And I just don't understand why. I have a wonderful voice. It says make a joyful noise unto the Lord, right? Didn't say it had to be on key. Not everyone is called to Guatemala. If you would have asked 18-year-old me getting ready to get married to what I thought at the time was the love of my life, it is the love of my life, I would never have thought Guatemala was ever in our future. Missions, what? Pastor? Huh? Just maybe that's not what your calling is. Maybe it's not to Albania. It's not to another foreign country. But everyone is called to make disciples. Maybe it's in kids ministry. Maybe it is on the worship team here. Just because they're singing doesn't mean they're not discipling. Maybe it is on the care team. Just because you're out there greeting people doesn't mean you're not discipling either. The part isn't just for pastors. Everyone is to be making disciples. It's for every Christian, and one that is sensitive and important. We don't know the time or the when or the where or the how, but we know it's going to happen. And one day Jesus will return, and we're going one way or the other. Before pastor and missionary were my hats that I wore. I had a long list of other hats. I was a daughter, a wife, a sister, a mother, a grandmother. I was also a teacher, a bank teller, a sales associate, a library aide, a government contractor, and here's a mouthful for you, a coordinator of religious education. Yeah, it's a mouthful. That's where actually I met one of your own, Anthony Floresca, who's out in Okinawa. Hi, Anthony. He was one of our singles as we were there working in the chapel. All of those things were hats that I wore. We were military. We moved around, which meant my job was to support my husband, but also support my family in ways that I could find. And those were the ways that I could find. Not every one of them was my calling. Okay, so your occupation isn't necessarily your calling. It can be, but sometimes it's not. So just so we understand, your calling it could potentially be a Marine, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a Marine. Maybe you share some of these occupations with me. Maybe you're the one in the military. Maybe you're in construction. I haven't done that, although I can paint a mean wall. And drive a hammer in some things. I don't know. Maybe you're a student right now and you're in this time, in this season of your life. Maybe you're blessed to be retired. Drew is retired, but he's not retired. I wouldn't let him because 30 years is a long time to spend 24/7 with each other. Maybe you're just a grandparent, and it's never just a grandparent. Maybe that's what your calling is right now. Each of us has a calling and a ministry, and wherever you might find yourself right now in the season, God can use you. So when you allow him to use you, you will accomplish exactly what you were born to do. What he's created you to do, and that is an amazing and wonderful thing. Ephesians 5:15-17 in the New Living Translation states that, so be careful how you live. Don't live like fools, but like those who are wise. Make the most of every opportunity in these evil days. Don't act thoughtlessly, but understand what the Lord wants you to do. We hear and say it all time and time again. Time flies if time will just slow down. Where has the time gone? Time is a resource we never get back. So ask yourself, what is consuming most of your time? What do you spend most of your energy on? Not just any energy, but your best energy. What's the first thing that you do each morning as you wake up? Our phones are a blessing and a curse. We spend so much time on them while they can help us in many ways, like giving us directions on how to get to Liberty Church Jacksonville for the first time, or using it to call in an emergency, or they can be a big distraction too, guys, and we all know this. We doom scroll on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're trying to keep up with people we haven't seen in years, and we just end up going down that wormhole of time of remember when. We get so busy doing those things that we forget who we're doing them for, whom we're doing them for. And what happens is we might become successful in doing them, but if we're doing them without being obedient to what God is calling us to do, it's still a failure. It's still a failure. Hebrews 12, 1 and 2 is where I'm going to be heading next. But I just want to tell you guys, since we are family now, I'm going to the gym. Yeah. I haven't started yet. Don't give me all the props. I haven't started yet. When we get back from Guatemala, I will start. But that's a big announcement for me. My husband keeps on telling me I need to, and I go, I got the Gmail bod. I'm good. But if you've seen the chunky monkey back there, and the little bean is still small, I can still hold her pretty well. And who knows how big this next one's going to be. I need some muscles. I need some muscles to be able to continue to hold that one, because if not, he's going to be having to hold me. Why do I mention this? Bear with me. Hebrews 12, 1 through 2 says this: Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a huge crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down, especially the sin that so easily trips us up. Now, not everything that hinders us is a sin. However, sometimes extra weight slows us down. When I hold Luke, it definitely slows me down. That's extra weight. Maybe that extra weight, though, for you is social media. And maybe it's watching the Gilmore Girls or the latest Netflix, whatever that they have, or you really like Paramount, so you're watching the Dutton Ranch. Maybe it's unnecessary commitments. You've said yes, even though you don't have the time. Maybe it's commitments, fears, comparisons. All of these things weigh us down, and it slows us down, and it distracts us from what we're supposed to be doing. But God says to strip ourselves from those weights that slow us down. Run your race, not someone else's. We get caught up in comparison, and it's a bad thing. It's never a good outcome. So a few things that you can be praying about this week. What are the things you're doing for God that are keeping you so busy that you forget the calling God has called you? Maybe it's something that you're doing in your free time that nobody else really knows. Maybe it's something that everybody knows that you're doing in your free time that you shouldn't be doing. Just be honest with yourself, because I'm sure there is something there that's holding you back. Ask yourself what God has been asking you to do that you've delayed because I'm too busy. Is it to forgive somebody? Is it to serve or get plugged into the church? Maybe it's to share your testimony with that coworker that you see struggling. Could it be to read your Bible in a more disciplined fashion? Is it maybe you just need to sit in that quiet time with him? What can you do to remove distractions from your schedule so that you can focus on what God wants you to do? Saying yes to God, right there, and that may mean you need to say something else, but if you say yes to him, he will work it all out. And maybe, if you're like me, you have to set a reminder in that telephone. Set it in the calendar like an appointment. Set an alarm to do it, and therefore you can go ahead and make sure you're focusing on the right things. Because we're all going to have to we're all going to account for the time that we've spent when we stand before the Lord. In 2 Corinthians 5:15 it says, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each of us may receive what is due us for the things that we've done while in the body, whether good or bad. We're going to answer for that time that we've spent with God, without God, doing what he's asked us to do, doing things that he's not asked us to do, but we think we need to do. So don't get occupied with the temporary things here on earth that you neglect the eternal things. If we don't stay connected to God, we don't continue to seek him and ask him what he wants of us, then we're just going to be busy. And we're not walking in his calling that he has for our lives. And soon, if we're not careful, we won't be able to hear him when he does talk to us. But wait, Pastor Carrie, I don't know what my calling is. I know. There are some of us who are still trying to figure that out. And as a grown-up, I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be as a grown-up. But our calling has always been there, and it'll always be there because he knew before you were even born what you were supposed to be doing. So let me encourage you in Romans 12:6, where it tells us that we all have different gifts according to the grace given to each of us. It goes on to say, if your gift is prophesying, then prophesy in accordance to your faith. If it's serving, then serve. If it's teaching, then teach. If it's to encourage, then give encouragement. If it's giving, give generously. If it's to lead, do it diligently. If it's to show mercy, do it cheerfully. If you have a gift, there's no arguing about it. You have a gift and you have a calling. You just need to discover it. Ask those that are around you. They're the best judgment of what you do. They see you in your weakest moments, your best moments. They see you for what you do. And so ask them, what is it that you see in me that might be my calling? Here's a great suggestion. Ask God. He's the one that gave it to you after all, so I'm sure he will be able to tell you exactly what he wants you to do. One more resource is called the Fivefold Ministry Assessment. Some of you may have heard it. I'm not sure if Pastor Mike has done that with you, but we have done it at our church. And it's a great resource. It's a quick assessment. Don't worry, it's not a long test. It's going to ask you some questions. You don't have to study for it. And it'll give you an answer to kind of what your calling may be leaning towards. The fivefold ministry, if you're not aware of it, is pastor, teacher, evangelist, prophet, and apostle. So an apostle helps you build the church by creating space for people to grow, launching new efforts, and helping people find where they fit, right? A prophet helps build the church by calling people closer to the heart of God and keeping the body of Christ from compromising. Evangelist helps build the church by expanding the family and reminding others that Jesus saved them from Jesus saved them for. Pastor helps build the church by tending to the people Jesus died for and reminding them that they are loved and that they belong, and a teacher helps building the kingdom by helping people know God's word and applying it in real life. We brought some with us. I've got about 30 copies or so. If you want to take it, we'll have it out there for you. Feel free to take it. If not, if you need more copies, maybe we'll keep one just to make copies later on if you so desire to take it. Take it. See where you land on this fivefold ministry. Each of us plays a part in the church and in God's family, in God's church, the big C, right? And here's another encouragement for you. Let Pastor Mike know what you tested out as. Don't panic. I don't think Pastor Mike's going to ask you to come up here on a Sunday and preach if you become a pastor, or if you test out as a pastor. I don't think he's going to ask you to go to the local Walmart and stand on a box with a microphone calling for repentance. If you test out as an evangelist. But it's really good for him to know, because that way he can continue to encourage you in your giftings and steward you in a way that will best help support him here at the church, but also those around you in the church, but also the kingdom overall. And it's just another way to reprioritize what you're doing day to day. If you know what your calling is, if you know what it is, you can use that filter to do the things in your daily life. And here's a hard one that I have learned. I'm going to wrap it up here. Learn to say no. I know. I've been telling you this entire time, find out what your calling is and do it, but also learn to say no. It's a hard one. I have had a hard time with this. I am by nature a people pleaser. I feel like I'm now only 5% people pleaser. I still want people to like me and to be happy with me, but it's not a priority for me so much anymore. You're one person, and you are one person, and your time is precious. You want to make the most of each and every day. If God has given you, blessed you with a family, and that's where your priority needs to be, then that's where your time should be being spent, not one more thing somewhere else, right? Once you found out what your calling is, you may need to start saying no to some other things in your life. And it's going to be difficult, especially if you're the person that's known as the yes man or the yes woman. Yes, yeah, we'll do that. We're great. Yeah, we'll take that on. When you start saying no and people are used to you saying yes, it's going to be hard. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult for them, and it's going to be difficult for you. But I just encourage you to share your heart, why you're saying no. This is what God is telling me to do. This is what God is calling my priorities to be. And this is where I need to focus on. And I just don't have time for that right now. If they love you, they'll understand. So if you're a Martha, all my Marthas in the congregation today, you're a doer by nature, but you're forgetting to worship. Or you're a Jonah, you're running. You're running instead of responding to what God is calling you to do. There is still time. We still have time to readjust and recalibrate and get back on course. And I urge you to remember who you are doing all these things for, and not just get caught up in busyness. Oh, look at my schedule. My calendar is full. It's not a brag, guys. It's not even a humble brag. Remember to make sure you have the correct filter. Like Pastor Drew said last week, if you're busy and you're forgetting things, your filter is in the wrong filter. Adjust your filter. Like a child, we see it all the time back in kids ministry, slow down. They think they have all of the world, all of the time in the world to play and get ready for school. And you're like, got 10 minutes to get out the door, guys. Let's go. Sometimes we can take a lesson from them. Slow down. Take your time. Figure out what you need to be doing. May sound silly, but schedule your God time. Put it in your calendar, like I said earlier. If it's not in my calendar, I will forget it. The more times I put it in my calendar, the more times I will remember, the more it becomes natural, the more time that I make it a priority, and I realize that this is where my time needs to be spent. And then protect that time. I can reschedule doctor's appointments. I can reschedule coffee dates. I can reschedule events. But what I can't reschedule is my time. So protect it. It is something that you need to be able to refill your cup so that you can pour out on others. And so it will become more natural. It may be difficult, but you guys can do it. Pastor Mike is back in the pulpit next week. I'm sure he's excited to tell you all of the great things that they did while they were in Guatemala. And he'll continue on with his sermon series in James. But I just want to say thank you from Drew and myself. Thank you for taking your time. Thank you for being here. And thank you for sharing your church with us. You guys have been an amazing congregation to speak with. If you have any questions, we'll be out in the back. If you have any questions about the test, like I said, it's really easy. It's self-explanatory. It goes in to tell you what it is and what it isn't, and just see where you stand. And then I'm on Facebook. Drew's on Facebook. Let us know where you stand. Maybe it's something that even though we're in Havelock, we can help you or encourage you in the calling that God is leading you towards. Let's go ahead and pray, and we'll get you out of here. Lord, we just thank you for today. We thank you for your presence during worship today, Lord. And I just feel like that this is a group of people who have you on their heart. that are seeking you wholeheartedly, Lord, that you're going to use them in a way that they never expected. You're going to stretch them in positions in their home life, in their work life, even here in their church life. That is just one more way they can say yes to you and be obedient so that they can walk in the blessing you have for them. Lord, I just continue to pray for Pastor Mike and the group as they are coming back, that they get a good night's rest and they feel refreshed and refocused and excited to share what you've taught them on this trip. I just pray for the church as they're coming in next week, that they're excited to have their pastor back, that they show them the love and honor that you have, he needs to have as you have called him to be in this position of their pastor. Lord, I just thank you for the time here in being able to come here and have volunteers that have our back. And so I thank you for the volunteers back in Havelock, as well as the volunteers that I hear that make this service